Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Old Hunt, where we are still celebrating 10 years of Bloodborne. Last time, we made our way through these forbidden woods. We encountered a wide variety of traps and ambushes and all sorts of enemy setups, and we made our way through this village, and it's all falling apart. This dilapidation, traps, and enemy ambushes, that's basically been our experience of the Forbidden Woods so far. And we did finally make our way over to this hut where there's an old woman. She wants us to leave her alone. She doesn't want us to talk to her, so we're going to leave her alone. And we could go over this way, but if we do, we'd sort of be in for another trap, right? I'd show it off, but I just don't want to deal with it. That gate will come crashing down. These dogs, which are currently asleep, would wake up. They would be released from their pens automatically. There's an enemy that pulls a lever that sets all this in motion, and then we'd be in for a bad time. And I don't want to have a bad time, so I'm going to deal with these dogs before they can deal with me, before they can warp out anywhere again on me in version 1.00. I don't know if that would happen, probably not, but not going to take any chances and find out. And then we're going to come over in this direction. Oops. Missed the crow. However, it also missed me, which is something of a win, as far as I'm concerned. And we're going to come up on top of this roof because this is actually a place where we can get a genuinely novel item. This is, as I was saying in the last episode, something of a rare event in the world of Bloodborne. Okay, we want to deal with these crows one at a time when they are not facing in the proper direction to attack us. Gonna want to make sure that we take them ideally from the side, or while they're turning around, like that. So we can come over here and we can pick this up, and we have, look at this, it's new. It's the white church set. What's this doing here? Right? And this is something that, well, first of all, as we'll see when we read the description, this doesn't really shed light. It does shed additional light on Bloodborne's world, doesn't necessarily tell us a lot about the Forbidden Woods. And it's also interesting to me that this particular item is placed here, right? And I'm not entirely sure how much to make of it, because sometimes in these games, item placement is very important and intentional, and they want you to have it inform your sense of the story. Sometimes they want to have it inform your sense of the gameplay. Sometimes they just put it there because, they need a place to put it, right? And which one of these concerns is it, or is it of relatively low concern in general? It can be sort of difficult to determine. But if we look back on the way we came, right? Think back to some of the items that we received. At the very start of this area, they gave us some antidotes. Actually, that reminds me. I want to get them on my hotbar here because we're going to be dealing with poison in the not-too-distant future. That's also why I wanted to come pick up the set, as I'll show off in a minute. But in addition to that sort of mechanical setup, right? They give you antidotes because, hey, poison's incoming. So there's that sort of mechanical nudge for the start of the Forbidden Woods. There's also a little bit of a potential story that we can read into the items we were picking up last time, right? They weren't new. We've seen them before, but from what we know already of the pungent blood cocktails and the beast blood pellets that we were picking up, all these houses, they're stocked with beast-related items, right? Items that accentuate beasthoods or that attract beasts, right? And so you can sort of see this theming to the Forbidden Woods. It's all falling apart, and people are sort of losing hope. They're giving in. They're turning to beasthood more and more, it seems like. And it's totally fitting association, right? This beasts in the woods. Who would have guessed? It sort of makes sense. And also hunters in the woods, right? You have the transformed hunter. You have hunter beasts in the woods. It's all very on point, really, except for the fact that they talk about this town being finished. I wouldn't call this a town. I think to a certain extent the enemy placement, as I've said before, was a little bit of a matter of convenience, at least in this first part of the woods. But let's also get into the specifics of the new set of attire that we picked up. Actually, I don't want to look at it from this menu because I want to make sure when we come over here that... Okay, so we've got a repeat of the long gloves because they go with the black set and with the white set. But I want to bring up the descriptions, and I just want to make sure... Okay, so these are all going to be identical, right? So we have the white hood of the church, we have the garb or attire of the church, white garb or attire of the church. We have the white leg piece of the church. And I'm guessing this is another leg piece thing, just like the black church thing, right? Like leg clothing, sort of very literally. So this is another. I'm guessing this is another one of the items that if I was playing a male character, these would be trousers. Not gonna verify that in the moment. Maybe I'll put that up in the screen in editing if I have time. I don't know. We'll find out. Anyway, if we actually look at the descriptions, though, we can learn a little bit more about the hierarchy of the healing church. Okay, so this is attire of special healers or doctors of the church. And I know to use like doctors, the plural, because at the second, well, actually, it's technically the third line of text starts with kare-ra, right? And so you have kare, which means he, and ra is a way in Japanese that you can indicate a plural, right? Nouns in and of themselves in Japanese don't have bent one way or the other. They could be singular, they could be plural, but there are ways of indicating it. I think we've come across at least tachi before. We definitely come across some of the negative ones, right? Because we had the filthy madmen who have these rituals to summon the moon. But this ra is another way to do it. And karera is basically just the Japanese way of saying they. So we know that this is about talking about special doctors of the church, plural. Anyway, these special healers of the church, are higher in rank than the black preventative hunters. Oh, there's tachi right there. So, yeah, that's another way that you can pluralize things, right? So it's not just these aren't superiors to a black church hunter. They are, in general, superiors to the black church hunter, the black preventative hunters, literally, but black church set, black church hunters, right? Like, that's where my mind is at. Just want to make sure I'm not putting the wrong thing into my very quick, dirty, literal translation. And so anyway, moving on. Okay, they are specialists in the plague of beasts and blood healing backed by experimentation. Right? So they like specialize in experimentally backed, I guess, research. The word research isn't in here, but that's sort of, I want to say, goes with the implications, goes with the territory, into blood healing and the beastly scourge, the illness of beasts, if we want to be super literal. So they know about it, but they know about it because they've been doing experiments. That's a little bit interesting, right? They're doing experiments to learn about beasthood and blood healing. The beasthood in particular, maybe we're getting a little bit of a hint as to why a healing church member would be out in the forbidden woods, right? And it's all its associations with beasthood and the pungent blood cocktails and the beast blood pellets and all these sorts of things. Maybe. Also, the vicars are the ones who know the password to get into the healing church, to get into the forbidden woods. And, I mean, it doesn't have to be that way. There's another potential explanation, as we'll soon see. But maybe they've got some justification for being here. It doesn't necessarily explain why the gate would have been closed by a gate guard that was already dead and was keeping us out. So those two particular pieces of evidence don't line up very neatly. But anyway, I just think it's interesting that they've got these experimentally backed expertise, and this particular set is found out in the woods. Might be nothing, especially with the DLC. It doesn't have to be anything, but I'm playing 1.00. We're not going to think about that too hard. Okay, moving on. Final set of lines here. So, according to them, as far as they're concerned, those are two possible ways you could translate karara ni totte. So, like, as far as they're concerned, healing is not an act of treatment, but a means of investigation. So we're coming back a little bit to the idea of, right, the classic general theme that I've been talking about a lot in this playthrough of exploring the unknown, investigating the unknown. They are investigating the unknown by performing acts of healing, right? So they're doing this to sort of further their research. Again, this isn't something that they're doing out of their goodness of their hearts. They're not seeking to heal people. They're seeking to further their knowledge of the world, and they're using people as their subjects, right? And I sort of wonder how much this ties into the dehumanization aspect that I've been mentioning when it comes to hunters, right? Because we know the Black Church hunters, who are the inferiors in this situation, right? The Black Church hunters are the ones who they're the preventative hunters, because if they think that they detect signs of beasthood in you, then they're going to, prevent the disease from taking root and presumably kill you, right? They're going to hunt you preventatively. So clearly they see sufferers as sort of their prey. And these people, the White Church hunters, the superiors, clearly don't have a much higher opinion of the patients, right? They're not out there trying to heal people. They're out there trying to further their knowledge through hunting. And you can sort of see how this grows into the Mensis sect of the Healing Church, looking down on regular people, being willing to kidnap them, having their hunters act as hunters in name only to further their own ends. It's just sort of an extension of what the Black Church hunters and the White Church hunters are already doing, because of the way that they've dehumanized their quote-unquote patients. All they really care about is furthering their own knowledge. And not great things have been happening because of it. Anyway, final line here. Okay, I'm a little unclear about chicken. I think that's how you would read that word. I'll probably put a dictionary definition up on screen, maybe edit myself in if I get this blatantly wrong. But I'm going to say that, so there are some pieces of knowledge that can only be gained by coming into contact with illness, right? And again, we're seeing the reason that both the Black and the White Church hunters have these surgical long gloves, because the final line of this description here, right? It's important precisely to make direct contact with and extract. So they're going to reach in and wrench out the source of illness, presumably killing the patient, right? But they have to touch it directly. We have direct contact with illness, right? There's a little bit of a sinister, maybe surgical implication. And particularly in the context of beasthood and beast hunting, I think it's a very short jump to talk about these doctors being essentially all about dissection. I think that's just a very strong tie to the sort of thing they're doing, because they're going out, they're experimenting on people and learning about beastly transformations and blood healing. And what's a great way to do that? Presumably dissection. And they've got these handy surgical long gloves that, they're protected by the spell that keeps them safe. So it's you can see, I think, pretty strongly that idea. Also, in a more mechanical sense, we can come over here and look at this slow poison resistance. So we've got the little purple triangle. It's right above a red triangle. A red triangle is rapid poison resistance. The purple triangle is slow poison resistance. Slow poison is what we're going to be dealing with in the Forbidden Woods here. So we've got that up to 63. Black Church set, it's pretty close. It's got that at 60. It's got greater rapid poison resist, but like I said, we don't really care about that for this area. Look at the plummet down for this charred hunter garb, down to 29 for slow poison. And this thing's a little bit higher. It's a little bit more on par, up at 48, but it still doesn't compare to 63. And then you get this thing way down at 17. What are you doing with the base hunter set? That doesn't protect you from slow poison hardly at all, right? So there is the mechanical reason why the White Church set here is a good thing to have on in this area in general, is because we're going to be dealing with a lot of poison, and boy, does this thing resist poison, right? So I can definitely think of a mechanical reason this is here. I'm not entirely sure of the story reason. Like I said, it doesn't completely line up, because it sort of feels like we're the first person to get the password to come through into the woods. And I don't know, but we'll see another potential explanation for how this set could have gotten here shortly, because I'm not going to progress any further into the Forbidden Woods. Why would I do that? That would be sort of forward progress through the game. We want to put that off as long as possible. I'm going to come over down this way, and we're actually going to, spoiler alert, loop back on the city of Yharnam. And so maybe we have people coming and going through here, even without knowing the password to get through the main gate and being, sanctioned by the vicars. Maybe they're still sanctioned by the vicars, and that's how they find out to come down through here. I don't know. I have no idea. You can actually run normally down this area over here, but I don't like to do that because there's an item basically right underneath us right now, and it's super annoying to get at it in any other way if you have to, like, run down to grab it. So I'm just going to fall. I'm going to grab this, and then I'm going to run. I'm going to roll and run and jump and get out of this narrow little passageway. Come over here. Get those antidotes that I prepped. Cure myself of poison. And then start healing up. Stay out of this water. Wait for my poison to go down a bit. You see these little wriggling, like, sort of maggot-like enemies? You can just barely see. It just went away. But there's a whole bunch of them, and they're really, really difficult to target. They're sort of resistant to damage. The best thing you can do is just ignore them. And, oh, if you wanted to see another tie to the church, right? We have these two church giants who are sort of... One of them is wandering around on patrol. The other one seems to mostly be asleep. And we've got more of these sort of maggot things leaping at us. I don't think... Let's see if I can get a good angle to watch all the bad stuff that's potentially going to come my way. I don't think that giant... Yeah, he's just on patrol. So he hasn't spotted us. Looks like that regular maggot thing is not going to be a concern. So we can come over here and grab this item. Oops, grab this item. I would prefer not to get poisoned. And then just slip back here. Alright, here the poison. Come over this way. Okay. Just make sure that I'm not running directly out into a giant. Okay, now they're both on patrol. I can fight these giants, but I would prefer to avoid it. Yeah, go back home. Ignore me. You don't see me. Uh-oh. Nope, he totally saw me. It did not work. I drew his attention. Nonetheless. Alright then. Come on. If you're gonna fight me, come this way. Wow. Boy, I did not think his arm would stretch that far. I really thought I was out of range. Alright. Fair enough. I know you can't hit down by your feet. I know your weakness. Crazy giants. There we go. What a cool way to finish him off. I'll take it. Ooh, twin bloodstone shards. Maybe I do want to kill these giants. I like those. Okay, we got some high-level cold blood. And, ooh, we got to go for that item over there. You just know it. I don't think there's anything over here. Could be wrong. Definitely want this item. Okay. Different sort of blood gem. I don't mind getting the poison. I'm pretty sure this over here is the main entryway. That if I had just run in a straight line... Let's make sure. Yep. Just make sure I didn't miss any items. I don't think I did. There's a couple of antidotes under down this cave thing. I could fall back down if I wanted to, but I don't. Right? So, we're good. Also note all of these corpses, right? We can see a bunch of sort of rib cages and things that are all set in the stone. And even down in that particular lake of poison, right, where you've got that constant poison buildup going on, you've got all these corpses everywhere. That is potentially quite significant. Okay. Oh, there's more giants than I thought. There's 3 of them. I thought the sleeping one woke up, but I guess there are just more on patrol than I realized. Okay, then. Do I want to fight this giant? I don't think I do. I don't think it's worth it. So, where am I running to exactly? That's what I want to know. I'm pretty sure I've gotten all of the actual treasures. Am I running over there? I think I'm running over there. I'm just going to do it and find out. Because it looks like that's another cave area. In the cave area... Here we go. Yes, yes, yes. We want to come up to this other ladder. This is how we're going to loop back around on the city of Yharnam. Note once again all of these corpses down here. And here we go. This is going to be quite a climb. I think it's in 2 stages? I can't remember. But definitely, whether it's 1 stage or 2, it's very long. We've got a long way to go. Presumably because there's a lot of loading for the game to do. So, it's sort of a classic thing, right? A video game has a big area to load, so they give you a giant ladder to deal with. But anyway, now, right, we can already see the stonework, right? We're very reminiscent of Yharnam construction. We've got more piles of corpses all over the place. And as we continue to ascend, Past more corpses. This is another... It is a two-phase climb, I suppose. We get more and more stonework. And ta-da! We are in a graveyard. And this isn't just any graveyard. This is a graveyard that we had access to... Well, that was right next to us. We didn't have access to it. Right at the start of the game. Because right over here is Yosefka's clinic. But we're not going to go in the regular way. Oh no. We're going to stick with the graveyard, and we are going to go in the back way. And I don't want to fall don't want to fall down that very long ladder. That would be not fun. Just be a lot of damage, if not instant death. So let's come down this way instead. Don't want to miss any items along the way. Have I died? No, I haven't died. Or at least if I did, I turned my lantern back on. I don't think I died. Boy, this series is not doing wonders for my memory. Oh, I forgot about this enemy being here. Okay, this enemy, notably, you can see how resistant it is to the one set of attacks from my sword. It is not so resistant to the other set of attacks from my sword. This particular enemy, very strong against blunt, I want to call it, damage. Can't remember off the top of my head. Bludgeoning is D&D. Okay, that's what I was trying to get a fix on. But it is very weak to thrust. It's also weak to fire. It's like I was previously dispatching those. Oh, I don't have the Molotov cocktails on my hotbar anymore because of the antidotes. That's fine. But I was previously dispatching them with Molotov cocktails for that same reason. They are physically pretty hardy. I'm pretty sure if I had thrown a Molotov cocktail, I don't know if it would have one-shot this one, but it probably would have come closer than even those thrusting attacks did, if memory serves correctly. They're quite weak to the more elemental attacks. So, but boy, they can be a nuisance otherwise. Thankfully, that one has sort of a constrained moveset, as do most of the others in the first part of the game. But the further we go into the game, the less restricted their moveset becomes. And boy, do they become a nuisance at that point. Okay. Well, I made a classic mistake going straight at a crow. Which, crows, I think I've said it before in the series, very good at attacking in straight lines. So you want to try and come at them from the side at all times. And of course, they're set up, right? They know... The developers know which way you're likely to approach a situation. So they're able to set up the crows so that they're basically facing you, or have an easy method of facing you very quickly once you sort of approach. And, oh, what's going on here? Here we are. We've reached the back entrance to the clinic. Look at this, Yosefka's clinic. We just gained some passive insight. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Who are all these aliens? What? This is very strange. Why are these creatures walking around here? Is that going to make the other one hostile? No. So these aliens are just sort of, for the most part, minding their own business. Let's see what happens when I pick this up. This is a formless Erden rune. Isn't that interesting? Let's see about this enemy. Enemy? Not very hostile. A pungent blood cocktail. 3 of them. Very strange. Of course, we come in here. Oh, it's another alien. Sedatives. Oh, what's happening on this table? This is the giveaway right here, by the way. This is, you can see a human hand on an alien form. And of course, we come over here, and this hand is a fully alien hand, right? So we have captured sort of a failed experiment. Those aliens are transformed human beings. And we'll get stronger confirmation than we've gotten already. A communion rune sort of makes sense because the church affiliation. in general. But we'll get more confirmation. Forget which one it is. Is it this one? Might be this one. Just standing here, running its own business. Nope, that's Erden Writhe, which is a new rune. We're out of the Forbidden Woods, so I'm not really counting it in my list of, potential Forbidden Woods runes or information. There we go. That's one of the, 2 items that I was looking for that are the strongest hints. These are Ariana's shoes. And Ariana, I think I already gave away, is the name of the person that we sent here across the street from the, guy who hates her, right? The sex worker. And these are her shoes. And we know that aliens are transformed people because of the failed experiment on the operating table. All these people that we've been sending to Yosefka's clinic, all that laughter, all that stuff, she's been transforming people into these creatures. She's been changing the nature of their beings. And she's been successful at it. So this is a very important episode for us. We've finally gained access to the clinic. We've finally seen the results of our handiwork. And we're not quite done. We're not quite at the point where I want to start taking a look at the item descriptions or anything like that, because there's one more. I think I went too far. There's one more dialogue that I want to get. Let's come this way. I think it's through here. We're going to be presented with something of a choice.
Ah, moonlit scents. How did you worm your way in here? Very unfortunate. I had such high hopes for you. Well, I won't make any excuses. Would you mind leaving us alone? Things need not change. You'll do the rescuing, and I'll do the saving. But if you refuse to leave... Oh well. I've always wanted to try my hand on a hunter.
Love this dialogue. There's a little bit of a pun that happens at the end, but you sort of have to know both Japanese and English to really get it. I think it's very clever, but I don't think if you just hear these lines in English and that's all you know, you're going to necessarily catch it. But when she says, I've always wanted to try my hand at a hunter, something to that effect, try my hand on a hunter, right, is sort of open-ended. It sounds as if she's talking about a sort of combat thing. And if we go up these stairs right now, if we don't leave her alone like she asks, we will end up fighting Imposter Yosefka. And in that scenario, it fits to say, I've always wanted to try my hand on a hunter. But if the Japanese subtitle clarifies, a clinical trial of a hunter is a hard thing to come by, is sort of a literal translation. If I remember the line correctly, I'll put it up on the screen. If I remember all that correctly, then the idea is, right, try my hand on a hunter is actually supposed to imply both things, because if you go up, you're going to get into a fight, and then presumably after you lose, she's very confident, you will end up an experiment, and she gets to do a clinical trial on a hunter, which is a difficult thing to come by, right? So try my hand on is sort of a pun on both senses of the fight and the clinical trial, and it definitely works. But like I said, I think you have to sort of know you have to see the Japanese subtitle and hear the English line at least to fully appreciate it. At least in my opinion. I don't know. Maybe someone out there who's watching this just got that straight off the bat, and you're very smart. But that's sort of neither here nor there. As much as I admire that as an act of translation, this is not translation born, even though I am still informed by the Japanese version of this game. What I want to call attention to is something that ties back into my crazy lore theory. And this goes back to something else that I've been pointing out in the episodes as we've been going along, right? I've been pointing out how everyone seems to be able to identify us by our scent, right? We have Ariana talking about, what a queer scent, but I take it over the stench of blood and beast any day, right? We have the Erden Chapel dweller who identifies us as a hunter by our scent. We have the little girl who is looking for Father Gascoigne, her father, and she's saying, I don't know your voice, but I do know that smell, right? So we have all these indications that people are identifying us as a hunter by means of our scent. And we know that that particular scent, because of Ariana's line, is not actually related to the blood that like is constantly covering our face and our clothing and everything. It's not the weird random scents of the city at night on the hunt that get all over us and make us smell gross. It's something different. How is it different? Well, now we've heard it. We've heard that scent identified as moonlit. Moonlit scents. And for ages, I haven't really known what to do with this. And I still might not know what to do with this, right? Spoiler alert, this is sort of a crazy thing. I've talked about it enough. This is one of the dangers of doing like an exploration of a lore theory, like live and on stream. This isn't a stream, live and on camera. Is that as you're talking about it, right, the repeated idea of it and the repeated thinking of it sort of cements it in your head. So at the start of this series, I was pretty neutral towards the idea. I was leaning towards wanting to explore it, right? I liked it, but I wasn't committed to it. At this point, I feel committed to it, even though I really haven't gained that much evidence for it. It's sort of something that floats in the game that you just can sort of do with or without, doesn't really matter. But one thing that I really like about the idea that our character is dead, right? That at the very start of the game, our character is like deceased as part of the blood transfusion, right? For one thing, it helps explain the amnesia. Could just be a weird effect, could be due to the tide of the dream, but it sort of makes sense if that's us either falling into a coma or dying, right? And then the idea that we have this scent that clings to us, that's distinct from the scent of blood and beasts and the horrors of the hunt, we're sustained by the dream that's associated with the moon. And so we have the scent of the moon on us. What if this scent of the moon is essentially coming from the fact that we're basically like a spirit form? Because otherwise, how do you explain the idea of moonlit scents? I guess you could just say generically it represents our tie to the dream. Like people can smell the dream on us. But what does that mean? I think the reason the scent of the dream lingers on us, I think the form through which that tie takes is the fact that we are a spirit sort of essentially being sustained by it. And that's why we smell so strongly of the moon. Now, it could be different, right? It might not be the tide of the dream at all. It could be blood echoes, right? We'll get a dialogue from the doll later who talks about sensing the ancient echoes. So maybe that's the thing that's related to the moon. But I sort of like the idea that it's this sort of spirit essence that we have about us that comes from our being dead, that people interact with us and they're like, there's something weird about you. You don't smell right. You don't smell like a physical person should smell, right? So, I don't know. That's just sort of, my one potential tie-in here to my crazy lore theory that I've been, quietly building up in the background. Might be nothing, might be something. Take it or leave it. You decide. I think we've been going on a little bit long, and I got to have some fun, explain my crazy lore theory. We got to experience some of the fun of the Imposter Yosefka storyline, take out all these aliens. But I feel like there's more to say, and we got a bunch of items, and all of those items are sort of brain-bendy. Well, not literally all of them, but most of those items are sort of brain-bendy, difficult to wrap your head around items. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the episode here, and maybe I'll write down some notes again like I did for the fight with Vicar Amelia, and we'll go through all of those items in the next episode, and we'll do a little bit of a lore session, and then after that, we'll get back to exploring the Forbidden Woods. So for now, I'm going to call it into my hunt for the evening. I hope you join me for the next one. Should be interesting sort of lore through sort of thing. I don't know exactly what I'm doing. I'm making this up as I go along. But again, I wish all of you good hunting. Dang it! Why did you sit down? What? I was trying to end the episode all fancy. What I should do, you know what? I'm going to be proactive. I'm going to learn from my mistakes. I should have done this a long time ago. I'm going to put in a different gesture. Here, we're going to, what are we going to do? We're going to shake off our cape. We're going to sit down directly off of that menu. We should never do it again. All right. Thanks for joining me, everyone. I wish all of you good hunting.